Hello and welcome, Construction World. Chris James from Oryx Consulting. We're back with our really great friend Lindsay Bowie from Oryx Care, and it's time to do one of our Oryx talks again. It's been a long time waiting, but we've had quite a few things on the plate just a recent time. So, without further ado, this week we want to get into the number one thing that I think you need, whether you're anyone from the ground all the way up to the CEO of the company. It doesn't matter who you are. If you can't learn the art of communication, then it's something that you need to learn, and you need to learn fast to go anywhere, anything that you want to do in life. So let's get into it.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey Lou, how are you? How's things?
Oh, not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good.
Pretty
Getting the dream over here. Perfect weather
good.
over here. I think your weather's a little bit crappier over there by the sounds of things.
Yeah, it's been pretty awful. Tons of snow, really cold. It just broke freezing for the first time in like a month the other day. So it's like 40 degrees, which is feels like summer.
No, summer's happening over here. We've got pretty much 90, up around 90 Fahrenheit every day, so 30 degrees Celsius, thereabouts
Yeah.
during the day, and to probably low 20s, 20 Celsius of the night time. So beautiful weather
Yeah, you don't got to brag.
here. It's been anyone that hasn't been catching up with the news. It's been terrible in the US. There's been quite some big winter storms coming through there. So you had a bit of an unseasonal, heavy amount of snow, didn't you, Luke?
Well, I mean, snow, like getting a lot of snow in Ohio isn't abnormal, but we've had mild winters for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. But so yeah,
Okay.
it hit pretty hard. So I think I guess we're just kind of out of shape for it now. But yeah, it was pretty bad. It was, I don't know, we would have had in like 2 or 3 days, we probably would have had over a foot of snow and
Crazy, crazy.
really cold temperatures. I think we were having like the feel like temperature at one point was like -20, I think. So,
Yeah, that's
and
cold.
now it's probably a 50-degree difference. So that's why I sound sick again. I sounded sick on the last video we did.
No, we certainly don't have that here, so that's good news. I suppose it's a pretty good segue to get into the topic that you want to talk about today, and it's always a topic that I love talking about because it's if you can learn any skill in life, communication is the number one skill. I don't care what you do, but you could be a janitor, you could be the CEO of a company. If you can't communicate, if you can't get your message across, you're dead in the water as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's one of those life skills that is just a must. And I suppose segueing through from where we are talking about weather into the construction industry right now, you know, the construction industry during this type of weather, it's it's imperative that you get your message to your workers in the clearest, concise possible way that you can. I mean, you know, people in your part of the world that, you know, do I have to come to work today? Is work cancelled today? Or what's going on? You know, like a lot of guessing there's a lot of guesswork when people don't communicate well. Would that be that's a good way of summarising it, I suppose? Lindsay?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and you want to leave the guessing out of it.
Yeah,
But it's hard. I mean, in that example, it's hard because you just never know. Sometimes they predict you're going to get 6 inches of snow, and you end up getting one. So it's pretty unpredictable.
it's something very, very simple where you notify people the night before. Hey, listen,
Hmm.
this is what's going on. Yeah, it's just communication. This is what's going on. These are the reports that we have right now. I will let you know by 5
Yeah,
a.m., 6 a.m. whether you need to get in the car, what the story is. If in the meantime there's something at your place that I don't know about, please let me know. Again,
yeah,
just good. You know?
yeah. If you have a good team, I know my dad and I were just talking about this a couple weeks ago when they were predicting those super cold temperatures. One of the laborers pretty much told him, you know, I don't really think I can work in that. There's really no point. So he pretty much just went to my dad, who's the foreman, and said that, and my dad agreed. So they kind of talked about that the day before.
Yeah, yeah. Just on that, like, does your like people like your father that you're aware of in his certain construction area, I suppose you'd call it, do they give them a lot of training in that respect towards the, you know, like, okay, now that you've moved off the machine and now you're moving into a more supervisory role, are they giving them those kinds of, you know, those tools to help do their job that you're aware of or not?
I don't think so. Not from what I can tell. I think, you know, my dad's situation, it was just kind of, he was in that role for so long and he was already doing foreman work. I think he
Yeah,
kind of just took that took that on himself because he was the most experienced guy, you know, in that
yeah.
situation. So he kind of had been doing foreman work, and then yeah, just
Really important
that was
because
pretty
as
much
I
it.
the tools and worked my way up, you know, supervisor, superintendent, manager, not once, you know, and I requested, you know,
No.
is there anything to do or is there something that you can help me with? And it was, you know, I'm going back to an older generation where it was a sink or swim mentality, I suppose, you know, but there was never anything offered. I mean, it's something I can't stress it enough. Those managers and those people that I don't like using the word control people, but look after people. The best ones are the best communicators. You know,
Yeah.
yes, their job, but they're probably, you know, like I was a good mechanic, you know, and I was really good at fault finding, but not the best mechanic. You know, there was other mechanics that were absolutely brilliant, but I was really good at communicating. That was just an inbuilt, something inbuilt within myself, you know. And that's something, but that's something that you're with Oryx Care. That's something that you do, and that's something that you do to help companies, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That's a big one, really.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, it's not something people seem to brush it under the carpet. You know, okay, you just moved him. He's just a really good guy. He knows the job. He knows our company. Let's make him a foreman. You know, okay, maybe 70% of the time it works. I don't know what the numbers are on that. But what happens to the times that it doesn't work? You know, what happens
And
when
it
it
might
don't?
be working, but how good is it working, you know?
Yeah, yeah. How effective is it? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a communication was something that I had to learn as well. Like it was something that I had in me, but you're reserved when you first start in that role. A lot of the time, you know, there's not too many people that are really bashful to go into that role of I'm going to do this. You know, it's very reserved, and especially in the pipeline industry that I was in. I mean, I had people that were years and decades my senior. You know, okay, well, how do I communicate with that person effectively, and then communicate with someone that's 10 years my junior? How do I communicate with them effectively as well? It's a little bit of knowing people, understanding people, knowing what makes them tick, I suppose. So, what tips or tricks? What are some areas that people really need to focus on when they're trying to be good communicators?
It all starts with really listening first, you know, getting to know the people you work with, learning a little bit about what works for some people, what doesn't work for others, you know, but what it all starts with and comes down to is listening, and active listening to people is different. And in construction, everything moves so fast and it's so, I guess, intense is the best way to describe it. You might not always feel like you have the time to like truly listen, but if you take the time and just listen to people, they'll tell you what they need from you. And setting boundaries and defining roles is huge too. I think a lot of people just assume people know what they're supposed to be doing, and 9 times out of 10, they probably don't, and they're just winging it because nobody's ever defined their role or told them what their specific responsibilities are.
That's a really good point. I mean, assumption is it's the death of managers, it's the death of supervisors, it's the death of companies.
Hmm.
Assuming, and I'm as guilty as charged with that. Been there and done that. You know, I made some terribly poor assumptions through my working career. You know,
Yeah.
but when you learn from them very, very quickly, you move on from there very, very quickly and try and put it as far behind as possible.
Yeah.
Assumptions.
And it's, some people are self-starters and they don't need as much direction, but a lot of people aren't, they need direction. And especially if you're somebody working with younger people, they're going to need a lot more direction than others. So you should never assume that they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Always ask.
It's also something, I suppose, too, just while we're talking here, even if you're not in a supervisory role, a management role, or whatever, if you're one of the workers on the ground, you can practice good communication skills. You know, the people in a work environment, in a crew that are effective and really good at their job are also good communicators. You know, like you said, what do I need to do my job? I need to communicate to my supervisor, to my manager, what I need to do my job. Why am I not able to perform to the standards that they require? Because I don't have X, Y, and Z. You know, like good communication is across the board with that 100%, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to be proactive too, especially as a supervisor, manager, whatever, and you're communicating. Don't sit back and wait for there to be an issue. Communicate in the process so you know what's going on the entire time.
Yeah, a good quick story on that. I remember when pipeline industry started moving into, you know, we've got to have our meetings every morning, and I used to put it off as much as possible. Like my guys know what they're doing. You know, we've got to keep the machines running. We know exactly what to do, and then they really pushed it. You know, it's like if you're not going to do it, we'll find someone else that can do this. You know, so I've got to do the meetings every morning. And instead of all the mechanics leaving well before 5:30 in the morning, now I've got to keep it packed. And all I could see was the lack of production, lack of production, lack of production. Well, it wasn't that at all. We actually got more production because everyone left the yard that day knowing exactly what was happening, who out of the other mechanics was having some problems, like might have a trenching machine that I'm just keeping it by, but when it stops tonight, I really need to get in and do, I've got about 3 hours of work. So, you would find that maybe the truck driver coming home, it might be a mechanic that's on a crew behind them. It's like, hey, I remember he said that he had problems tonight. I'm going to pull in and give him a hand, So that group communication environment was absolutely fantastic, And I honestly didn't see the need for it. I thought that we had a crack gun-ho crew, but we just made that crew even better through communication of the morning,
Yeah.
And we enjoyed it. We had some pretty good. We had some good laughs. We had, a lot of it was just, guys, it's been raining overnight. It wasn't huge rain, but we don't know what's up the road. So if you're in a heavy vehicle, just remember, you don't get off the road. The smaller vehicle gets off the road. Just little reminders all the time. We went from, little near misses, things like that, to we basically dropped all that off just through good, clear, concise communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes all those, if you feel like you're maybe communicating too much or reiterating the little things too much, and maybe you feel like you're being kind of annoying, you just got to put that out of your head, because it's really those small reminders that keep people on top of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really good. I did feel that way. I felt like I've got to tell a 50-plus-year-old heavy vehicle driver that's been doing it his whole life and knows every aspect of that job, and here I am basically telling him how to suck eggs,
Yeah.
And, it was something that, I don't know what was going through his mind that morning, the night before, and like that. So again, really good points that it might have saved someone from running off the road with a heavy vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just that one little,
And people get complacent over time. on the job too. So everybody needs reminders.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's really, really important. So, from a company perspective, how do you go about helping those people? You know, like how can you help those people? I should say, to help those companies with people that they're trying to bring up into a management role. What have you got to offer to these companies?
I can work with people in those roles or people who are going to be in those roles and just work on just giving them tips, information, leadership advice, things like that. Go over types of communication, what we were talking about, how work with them, how to set boundaries and define roles, how to be proactive in their communicating, to help them understand how people communicate, how there's all kinds of different communication styles. It really just depends what they need, what they're lacking, what they could or want to improve on, and then we just go from there. But yeah, it's really just offering them knowledge and just tips, helping them understand
Yeah,
people a little bit better. As someone in a leadership role, you have to understand people. So
I suppose on that it doesn't. And just while you were talking, I was thinking that it doesn't really matter if they are, hey, we've got Billy Bob that we want to bring up into our management role or supervisory role. There's no perfect time to teach people about communication skills. You know
no.
what I mean? If you're a company owner, it doesn't really matter if you've got, all good and well if you've got some people coming up through the ranks that you want to get, Lindsay to come out and do some quick information sessions and things like that. I think it's really important that at any stage and all of your workers, from your workers to your supervisors to your managers, it's something that you need to do to run an effective company. So, yeah, I there's no right or wrong with it, I suppose.
No.
There's no,
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a typical training situation. Maybe just you have a couple of people who are having a hard time with it and I come in and just work with them. Maybe you want to do it in group setting or something like that. Get it all done at the same time. It's really whatever. I kind of like to do more, I guess, unique approaches and not just do trainings you can find really on YouTube.
that's something that's really, really important. I mean, set up and I've worked with Lindsay on this to try and, as a business owner and as a manager, to set up a questionnaire. Is that
Mm-hmm.
the right questionnaire to get out to people in your business? Now, this could be, the workforce, it could be the supervisors, it could be the managers, it could be a mixture of all of these people together. But at least get this questionnaire out to the people to first identify if you've got a problem. You might think that you're doing a terrible job with communication, and then it comes back that, oh no, we don't actually have a problem with communication. We've got a problem with something else. Or you might, on the other side, you might think you're doing a whiz-bang up job with your communication, and everyone comes back and says, no, we've got a problem with communication. I get
Yeah.
sick, and all of these kinds of things, which is generally the case in a lot of projects that I go and have a look at. It comes down to communication, all the way down. And a lack of respect in a lot of cases too, a lack of respect, which is part of communicating effectively, in my opinion. But yeah, that questionnaire that Lindsay's got is so important, and I think it's something that any company, it doesn't matter what you're doing for your business. If you're in construction, I think this questionnaire is extremely important to identify when you've got a problem. And Lou, just run through on that questionnaire just some of the questions that you've got on there and what you're trying to find out from the people, from the companies.
Yeah, let me just pull it up quick. So it's a really general questionnaire, really. It covers a lot of different things, but the first part of it is just kind of to assess if the person doing the questionnaire is struggling in general, and that's really just on the mental health side. But then it goes into more of like organization question. So how would you rate your overall well-being while at work? How would you rate your overall work-life balance? How would you rate your stress levels at work? How would you describe your relationship with your coworkers? How could your employer help improve your work-life balance? Do you feel that you're giving clear communication and direction while on the job? Do you feel like there's someone you can go to talk if you're having a hard time, or if you're just confused or just need some direction? And would you be interested in having access to more resources about this sort of thing?
Yeah.
And then do you see any other issues that affect your ability to do your job?
Yeah. That
So it's
last
pretty
one
quick.
really, really important. You know, is there anything that's affecting your ability to do your job? Really, really important, because it gives a bit of a platform then that if there's something we don't know or you don't know, Lindsay, that you know that's specific to their particular job, at least there's an opportunity there to raise that concern as well, which is really, really important. But I mean, it's a pretty unintrusive look into,
Yeah.
and it's you know, you don't have to put your name to it or anything like that.
No.
It's confidential. Fill it out, put it in, and away you go. You know, like it's a really good tool, I think, to at least identify and pinpoint, hey, have we got a problem? And if we do, where is the problem? Or we know we've got a problem, we just don't know what it is. I mean, it's a great little tool you can hand out with people in the morning when you have your morning meeting. Get them to drop it off into a box or post it in or do something, whatever you want to do with your particular work crew. But it's really important to find that the pinpoint, if you've got a problem, if you do, where is that problem and how do we address that? You know, and that's where Lindsay comes in, and Lindsay's able to put that together and go, okay, well, now we know we've got a problem. How do we address it? Is it addressing the whole work crew? Is it a particular job site that they've got? Is it one particular individual? You know, there's a multitude of reasons that you can form forward, I suppose, is the right way, because, you know, production is everything, especially in you know, I keep banging on about it, because if you don't have production, you don't have profits. If you don't have profits, you don't have a company. You've just got a hobby.
Yeah.
Honest truth about it, you know?
Yeah. I like the idea of questionnaires or surveys, especially the confidential ones, because it's not always easy going to a boss, whether it's because it's just the power difference, or people that are in management positions are generally busy a lot of the time, so they might not seem so available, which is another thing that you could do to improve communication, is at least try to make yourself seem available, so people do come. But yeah, so it's not always easy to go to people in those roles. So that's what's good about those questionnaires, is that it takes that, I guess, like intimidation factor out of it. You know, nobody will ever know that those were your responses. You know, that's just.
But you just touched on it there. It's to be doing the right thing as well. And from a company's perspective, if you're a worker at work, whether that be a supervisor, a manager, whatever the case may be, if you're an employee and you get a questionnaire, you know, or at least they're trying to find out if you've got it. I think that's the first step in opening that communication and opening the barriers that we all have in construction projects. You know, there are barriers because, you know, I don't like that guy and that guy doesn't like me. You know, barriers. We put up health and safety barriers our whole life, whether we like it or not. That's what we tend to do. If someone's hurting us, we put up a barrier. So at least with these confidential questionnaires, it's a great way of starting that discussion. And like you say, it's not easy going to a supervisor, especially if you have a supervisor that's not doing the right thing, you know, and he's, for want of a better word, he's abusing his power, you know, like that's questionnaire is really good. Are you going to get it from that person? And if it comes down from above, then yes, you do have to do it. And I think the other thing there too, and something so many people don't talk about, but it's so prevalent in the construction industry, and it's probably going to upset a lot of people, but corruption. Corruption is one of the biggest problems that we have in the construction industry. I don't care who it is. I've seen corruption right from the top all the way down to the bottom, you know, and everyone in between. And it's corruption is a really bad problem, and it's, you know, it's rife in the, you know, I'm going to say it's as rife as mental health issues in construction. So, but if you
Yeah, I'm
see,
sure.
you probably don't even know that the intermediary manager is getting a kickback from the guy with the tip trucks because it's his cousin or uncle or whatever. And, you know, like, these are all things that these confidential questionnaires can find out, have the ability to find out. I mean, not that you can go and address corruption issues, but at least you've got something to say, hey, listen, what have you got in your organisation to combat corruption? Have
Yeah.
you got something? If it's an Australian company or a British company, they'll generally point to the wall and say, oh, yes, we've got a procedure and policy for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does a lot of good for you, you know. But sometimes this is really, really important. You know, I've seen it in Australia. I've seen it, you know, it's right, as you know, over here, but it's as right in Australia. I mean, it's on a different level, and it's a different sneakiness, and it's a different kind of thing in Australia, but it's still prevalent in Australia. And I've seen it from, I haven't seen a company that doesn't have it. I'll go that
Yeah.
way. Corruption mightn't always be, you know, taking a bag of money or something like that, or taking a vacation that's given to you. Corruption can be, you know, just getting your mates there because you want to have your mates on the job and not employing the right person for the job. That's what I think about corruption. It's something that it's never talked about. You know, very rarely do I speak to anyone about it. And companies that have found, you know, the paper bag scenario, they just don't talk about it. Like, yeah, we found that. We isolated that.
Yeah, I can't help with corruption, but I can help you identify problems. So if that's the problem,
Yeah,
then
that's right.
that's, you know, something you go from there. If it's a different sort of, if it's in the wheelhouse of, you know, mental health, communication, productivity and stuff like that, that's what I can help with. But anyway, I can help identify the problem, and then you go from there.
Yes, yeah. But you also know how to research and how to find, you know, what is the mentality of the management staff to allow that to happen on that.
Right.
That is something very good at doing, you know.
It's a good way to kind of figure out and identify maybe the bad apples that, you know, like, because one or two bad people in any company is cancerous. So in any situation, you know, and families and friend groups, and, you know, one person is, especially in families.
Oh, more so in families. More so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In families, it's one of those things where you've got to put up with it.
Yeah, because you can't do anything about it. And generally people like that don't change. So
no, that's right. That's right. And then, you know, we are all built differently. So again, that's why it's so important. There's no one size that fits all for every company. Every company is different because they all have different types of people, and, you know, whoever owns that company or runs that company has a particular way of doing things. So he's going to set up his managers underneath him that support his personality. You know?
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So you might have a really aggressive manager, you might have a really quiet manager, you know, and the people that run underneath that will reflect that. So every project is different, meaning that so many, it is not a cookie cutter design.
Well, and that's how, like, communication is too. There's so many different styles and different, you got to find the style that fits your personality.
With the communication though, I mean, where do you, say you go into a company, say you go in, you do your questionnaire, you isolate some problems. Problems being, you know, there's a communication issue between the supervisors and the staff. What have you got to give to your clients for that? How do you then go about addressing those problems? Or how can you? I mean, again, I know there's not one size fits all for everyone.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think in that situation, I would want to work. I would obviously at that point I would have talked to both, supervisors and foremen and their crews. So I would start then with the supervisors and work with them. It would be full on just consulting then. This is the problems we identified, and here's a whole bunch of different approaches you can try to improve that. And a
But
lot
is
of
that
that too could be coming straight from their crews, like what do you need, and obviously you can't cater to everybody, but you can get a general idea of what's going to work with that team.
yeah? But is that something that you need to be one-on-one across the desk from that person, or is that a classroom setting, or is that is that just a Zoom call to
Yeah, I mean, it can be as easy as a Zoom call. I like to make that option the first available these days, because I think everybody has new rules to follow now. It's not always easy to bring in people from the outside without a bunch of hoops to jump through. So yeah, it can be as easy as a Zoom call. One-on-one, we could do a group Zoom call. If that company in particular did want me to come in, we could do it that way too, face to face. But yeah, I like to make things as convenient and as accessible as possible for whatever.
See, on that, and me being the person that would have been on the other end of that conversation, as a supervisor, as a young supervisor, to have a one-on-one Zoom call is way more. I don't know. It's a more open environment for me to talk and me to open up. And I'll use pipelines again as an example. And I'm there as the maintenance guy. I know every one of those foremen that are in production hate my guts, because I'm the man that stops their machines and doesn't let them break the machines and run them into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use that as a derogatory. I'm saying that as though, it's very difficult to open up and say, oh yeah, he over there, he makes my life hard, and you get into that animosity. Whereas I can say, look, I've got problems with X, Y, and Z, and I've got a problem with how they disrespect what I do and my role in ensuring that this pipeline is built on time, and blah blah blah. That's a lot easier in a one-on-one Zoom call than it is with a class or in a group setting. If you're a reserved person, you're going to be reserved in that situation. Whereas,
Absolutely, yeah. People are more comfortable in their own environments too, and I also know, days are on job sites are really busy, so you might not even want to take the time to go and sit down with somebody and talk about that stuff. So you can do it. Also, too, you might not want to do it in your downtime, but you could take an hour on the weekend or in the evening and have a Zoom call and be done with it.
Yeah, and this is something to bring up too, or something to bring up. Lindsay's started she's allocating days for companies now. So what that means is, if you've got a construction company, and we have an example right now, she might allocate this, one Tuesday every month for that whole day. So a 8-hour period, whatever the case may be, it could be a 10-hour period, where you will do 1 hour consultation sessions for that whole day. So people can book in, and then that company has it's a 1 day a month bill for Lindsay Services to help your guys with what, guys or girls, don't get me wrong here, or your construction workforce, for what it is that you need to do. It could be communication, it could be raising awareness with mental health. It could be any one of your crew that's struggling with mental health. They know that they've got this resource there. Of course, if there's any big mental health issues, we want you to reach out immediately for that to get one-on-one Zoom session with Lindsay on that. But this is something that Lindsay set up, and I think it's absolutely fantastic, where, from a company's perspective, okay, well, I don't really want to go in all the way in depth because I'm very hesitant about it. It's something new and I'm very scared about it. So one day a month, I can afford that. That's easy,
Yeah.
And I keep getting back to those statistics from that Australian study that were for every $1 invested in the construction industry on mental health is a $2.50 return. That's not our, that's someone else that's done that,
Yeah.
I know mentally strong crews perform exceptionally well because I've been part of that, and I didn't know at the time what it was, but now you look back and if you've been managing people for some time, you know what I'm talking about, or you should know what I'm talking about. So this is something I think is fantastic. It could be 2 days, it could be 1 day a week if that's what you want for your work crew, but it's something. Really
and it's
important.
not all forever either. That's something too that you gotta stress is this isn't like these services aren't something that you engage with and then you use forever. This is just to get things, to improve things, fix problems, and then move on, and to give you tools to address those problems down the road. I obviously I'll always be available for any follow-up things like that, but I don't want companies to feel like they have to be reliant on me forever. The goal is to equip them that's for long-lasting results.
Exactly right, and that's so important. It's exactly what I do. If I do my job properly, you should only need me there to go in and train one generation of people, and they should be then training your next people.
Yeah.
Fully available to come back in a year's time, 2 years' time, and ensure that everything's still on track. But if I do my job properly, you should only need me for a small portion of time. The idea is to transfer the knowledge and give you the tools to do the job properly. And just on that, that's a totally different service to the mental health side of things. I mean, that mental health is always going to be there. That's our number one goal. Our goal is to reduce the really negative statistics in construction. Put out as many white papers as you like and all this nonsense and hashtags and all of that. And we keep talking about it and we keep finding them. We just found another guy during the week who was offering, what was it, Lou? He was offering services about doing deep dives into people's pasts, childhoods, I think it was, to get to the root of some problems. The guy had a high school education. Now, I don't mean to be rude or negative or anything like that, but that's like putting that's like putting someone with no mechanical knowledge to try and fix a problem on a $3 million trenching machine. It's, at least with a trenching machine, if you get it wrong, it's just going to break. It's a human being that doesn't have the knowledge or the in-depth understanding and education that you need. People are fragile,
Yeah, I would feel so uncomfortable doing that. I would feel so uncomfortable offering these services if I didn't have an education and training to be able to do so. It's unethical, it's immoral. Every time, and you see so much of it now, these pop-up coaches and mentors and things, and you don't realize that's a lot of people don't see a ton of value in a college education, especially these days. But I had to study a lot. There was a good 2-year period of my life where I didn't leave my house, other than to go to work, go to my internship. All of my free time was studying and doing homework and writing papers. Without that, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing this, but I see so many people. And honestly, it's always the people who get tons of views and has thousands and thousands of followers. And it makes me nervous.
And nervous is one way of describing it. I've been in the construction industry my whole life. You know that. You see people come and go, and it's a fad, and I can get the get rich quick, and I can make a buck out of this, and the one metric we keep following is the negative mental health issues in the construction industry. They're not changing. Well, they're not getting better right now. They're getting worse. So that's the metric following, and that's why we keep putting this information and knowledge out there that, between Lindsay's education and my background in construction, we've got a pretty good grasp on the issues. I think I've been there myself, and Lindsay helped me through some things, you know. So I can speak from first-hand experience. This is all about providing solutions, 100%. Today we're talking about communication, you know, like communicating. The number one thing that you need to do, whatever the case may be, if you're not teaching your workers or your employees, you know, supervisors, managers on good communication skills, who is that? It's just a simple question. If you leave them anything from this video, if someone's doing that, who is? You know?
Yeah.
Is it knowledge and an understanding of it? Is it someone that understands the pressures that we have? And you know, the construction industry isn't like, okay, I need everyone to come to my classroom on Tuesday so we can talk about this. It doesn't work like that in the construction industry. It's a, you know, hey Lindsay, we know we've got some bad weather next week. Can we do some Zoom calls on Wednesday when we know everyone's going to be at home? Absolutely, I can. No problem at all.
Yeah.
That's what the construction industry is, and that's why we keep banging on about, you know, we need to be flexible. The services that we offer have to be flexible because that's just how the construction industry works. If we're going to have any hope of bringing those negative statistics down, we've got to do whatever we can to be available for people.
Absolutely. That's a really good point because it's something I've come across a lot lately. I've had some conversations with some people in the industry, and it's like, well, there are these services and there are, you know, we do this and we offer this. And when at first I'm like, oh, that's great, you know, they've got services in place. And then I'm thinking to myself, I started asking around a little bit, people who work, you know, who are at like kind of the ground level. What do you think about that stuff? Like, oh, I wouldn't use those. No, I wouldn't feel comfortable using those sort of services. But I think they think by just having those services available that they're helping, that's okay. But if those services were helping, the statistics would get better, wouldn't? Every year they get worse. And of course, in the last year, there's been extreme circumstances. So, you know, just mental health across the board is out of control right now. But that's not just been in the last 12 months. It's been getting worse forever. So
it's culminating, you know, all of those things culminate. You know, I look at it through the eyes of people in desperation. Okay, what do I mean by that? It's the oil and gas worker when the oil price goes to negative dollar figures, and they're like, oh, "What's going on?" You know, like that's desperation. You mix, and this is what 2020 is, a combination of, you know, rock bottom oil and gas prices, and it was in the negatives. But then you mix in the COVID thing. I'll just leave it at that. The COVID thing. You know, that's like the movie, the perfect storm, so to speak. You know, it's a culmination of everything that on top of it. So you've got uncertainty. You've got have oil and gas taking a dive. People in the oil and gas industry, pipeline industry, lose their jobs all the time because of that. Okay, we're building this pipeline. No, we're not. The money's not there, but it's going to count. You know, you mix into that environmental concerns that people have been having in the US, and they use the skies of environmental. It's got nothing to do with people that own railways and want to move oil via railways. You know, they're shutting down things like the Keystone Pipeline and that. That's uncertainty. Then you mix in COVID amongst that, where, oh well, at least my wife's got a job. She's a school teacher or what have you, and bingo bango, you know, you've got the perfect storm upon you. And where are those services? You know, those services that you're talking about, that those companies are talking about, you know, they're a tick in the box. They're those company policies and procedures on the wall, and someone's got the shiny package, and it doesn't get down to the individual nuts and bolts of your operation and fixing the problems that you have. The whole point about what you do, Lindsay, what I do, is to help you with production. You know, yours is via helping the people and getting the people mentally strong, mentally tough, communicating with each other, and building an extremely strong and resilient workforce. Mine is always about the equipment and the procedures and that go around how you build your job. So between the two of that, that's something that's it's underestimated, but because people, they can't see, oh no, well, I've got this piece of paper and it's from this firm and it's got a fancy stamp on it, and, it's really good. Well, I'm sorry, why are the statistics the way that they still are? Why are we still throwing tens, hundreds of millions of dollars into more study after more study? Yes, we keep saying the studies need to be done, but at what point do you move away from study and start giving solutions,
My question exactly. I've kind of lost my patience with it lately, where I'm just like,
you have to lose your patience with it.
yeah,
It's the construction industry, and we're rough, tough guys and gals.
Yeah.
That's the way it's got to be. Like you. That's why you're talking about you and I going to meetings differently. I go in there because that is my background and I'm used to speaking to people like that.
Yeah.
So people might find me abrasive or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's very, very important to me, and it's something that is near and dear to my heart, because I don't want to see another construction worker injured or someone, and dare I say it, in HR saying, oh no, well, we've got a program for that. Okay. We actually go, and what was the matrix that you're measuring all of your problems from? Like these are serious problems, but they're also a lot of small problems culminate to a massive problem.
That's how any problem is. No big problem starts out as a big problem. It's a bunch of little things that and that's the case just with everything, not just that sort of thing. If you let a small problem in your relationship go on for too long, then there's resentment, and every little thing adds to the problem, and then it just explodes. It's financial problems. You don't start out with an abundance of credit card debt. That's something you build over time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's something. It just goes back again to that service you're offering, that 1 day a month, 2 days a month.
Mm-hmm.
From a perspective, that's nothing. It's nothing.
No. Especially for the money that is spent now on those sort of initiatives or training. The people that come and talk at those trainings are expensive. To have those trainings are expensive. So, you're spending that money anyway, so you might as well spend it on something that offers concrete solutions. And
you do that kind of service that you're offering. Let's just say it's 2 days a month for a company. They've got quite a few employees, and having the availability there for people to call in. It's confidential. You don't go any further with the problems that people are having, apart from we're really addressing the same issue with everyone that we're speaking to, and that's communication issue. Communication seems to be from X, Y, Z. Okay. Sometimes head office don't even know that they've got a problem. But again, the metrics for measurement then is, now that we've done this for, say, 3 months, 4 months, whatever the case may be, let's put that questionnaire back out into the field and let's see what we're doing. Let's compare them. Let's get those notes together. And it's something, and we should have mentioned before too, at the end of that 1 day a month or 2 days a month, you'll give a report.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you say, this is what we're finding, this is who we're, not the people, it's very confidential, all these kinds of things, but this is what we're addressing. This is the problems that we seem to be addressing, and it seems to be. Or there could be listen, I believe that such and such may have a serious issue here that needs some help that is outside of my scope, and here is services.
Which I like to get to tell people I'm more than willing to help find appropriate services too. I would never just leave a person or a company hanging. There's like a serious issue that needs something more extensive. I'll help find that service.
Yeah. Cool.
And and the confidentiality thing, I think a lot of people avoid these sort of services in fear that somebody will find out. But I'm actually bound by confidentiality laws. I can't, like, because of the license I have, I can't tell anybody anything. So,
Yeah.
and that's including your bosses. I can give them a general, this is the issue, but I could never say, so and so said this is the issue.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I can't do that. So, and I wouldn't do that.
On that too, though, Lindsay, that's a really good way of creating resentment by using people's names. And again, why one-on-one Zoom is extremely practical in this situation, not only to help the construction industry because of the nature of the beast of it, you can't just call your workers out and have a wonderful little all lunch together and cooking all over the countryside. Lindsay can be anywhere. Your operation may be in Australia, your operation may be in Southeast Asia, your operation might be in the US, Canada, South America. It could be anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is online. And if that means that, that's the whole point about offering solutions. If Lindsay needs to be up 2 in the morning through to, 2 in the afternoon, well, so be it. Lindsay ensured that that's what, by offering online anywhere in the world, that's what she's going to do. Communication is one of those, it's a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable. Anyone that works with me or I work with anyone, communication is key to anything that you want to achieve. And I can't stress it highly enough, And it's one of the things that Lindsay's really good at doing is getting down to that nuts and bolts and what you need to do to communicate effectively to your group. And honestly, it will be unrecognisable changes that we make to your organisation as she does it. Okay, that's the honest truth. Because when you've got good communicators, your whole construction project changes. It just does. The whole mantra around it changes. Well, I think that's about it, Lindsay. Unless is there anything else that you want to bring up on the communication side?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well.
Okay. Yeah.
And if there's anything more anybody needs, I just reach out.
Yeah, that's it. At first, it all comes down to identifying the problem to start with. We've seen the statistics in the construction industry. We know that there's issues there. I've got first-hand knowledge of all the issues within the construction industry. So, a lot of it could be resolved just through some very simple training on communication skills. So, what have you got to lose? A day, a month is a small price to pay to really turn that production around, and get the crew that you've always wanted on your projects. If you're getting an extra 2 days of work a month, it turns into a lot of money in your pocket, and it's certainly a lot more than what Lindsay's going to charge you for 1 day a month. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So look, guys, Lindsay, thanks very much for your knowledge again. It's always fantastic to have a chance to put these videos up, and it's something reasonably well received at the moment. We'd really like for everyone to share all of these. And don't forget, Lindsay's available for one-on-one services, Zoom calls, whatever the case may be that you might be struggling with something on the job site, wherever that job site might be. Reach out, just Lindsay's, find her on LinkedIn. We'll put your LinkedIn contacts down in the description of this YouTube video. But really, really important to reach out if you're struggling. It might just save your life. It might just save your friend's life. It might save those around you when you're operating a heavy machine. Think about everyone else and yourself, but think about those around us. And that's what we always say, look after your mates, look out for your mates. So start with good, clear communication. If you can do the communication yourself, and you can test for yourself, do it. Just try it. Push yourself every day to be better at communicating. Ask yourself, have I given good, clear, concise instructions to my crew? Ask your crew. Ask them, do I do good communications? Could I do it better? Sometimes you don't need us, but you just need that knowledge of how to.
And the confidence, yeah.
Confidence, exactly right. Exactly right. Well, from us here at Oryx Consulting and Oryx Care, thanks very much, guys. It's always a pleasure, and it's great to share our knowledge and try and get these negative statistics around the construction industry moving in the right direction. Right? So that's why we're here. That's what Oryx Care is all about you, the people. So, thanks, Lindsay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure.